I'm way past arguing with people, but John Cena is a great wrestler. He's my favorite wrestler.
My hands are shaking. I can't feel my heartbeat. Everything's so cold now.
The world is in mourning today as a true icon has passed away. Terry Bollea, the legendary wrestler known to millions across the globe as Hulk Hogan, has died at the age of 71. The news, first reported by TMZ, was confirmed by his family and WWE, who cited cardiac arrest as the cause of death. This is the story of his sudden passing, the health struggles that came before it, and the lasting, complicated legacy he leaves behind. An era has officially ended. A silence has fallen over the world of sports entertainment, a world that, you could argue, wouldn't even exist as we know it without the man who told millions of his fans to say their prayers and eat their vitamins. He was a superhero to a generation, a pop culture phenomenon who transcended the wrestling ring to become one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. From the birth of Hulkamania to the revolutionary days of the New World Order, his career was a masterclass in staying power. But behind the 24-inch pythons and the iconic yellow bandana was a man, Terry Bollea, who faced a life of intense public scrutiny, crippling physical pain, and personal controversies that would forever shape his story. On the morning of July 24, 2025, the impossible seemed to happen. The immortal Hulk Hogan, the man who had kicked out of every pinfall and overcome every giant, was mortal after all. Emergency responders were dispatched to his home in Clearwater, Florida, after a distress call for a cardiac emergency. He was rushed by ambulance to Morton Plant Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. There were no signs of foul play. The news sent an immediate shockwave across the globe. For decades, Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was a symbol of American strength and resilience. His passing marks not just the loss of a celebrity, but the end of a cultural chapter that he wrote himself. The first reports surfaced on TMZ, a site that was no stranger to the dramatic turns of Hogan's life, stating the wrestling icon had suffered a cardiac arrest at his Florida home. Police units and EMTs were seen outside the residence before he was carried out on a stretcher and rushed to the hospital. It didn't take long for the official word to follow. The Clearwater Police Department confirmed the nature of the call and that there was nothing suspicious. And shortly after, WWE, the company he helped build into a global empire, a statement of their own. It read, in part, WWE is saddened to learn WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan has passed away. One of pop culture's most recognizable figures, Hogan helped WWE achieve global recognition in the 1980s. WWE extends its condolences to Hogan's family, friends, and fans. The news of his death felt sudden, but in the weeks and months leading up to it, concerns over his health had been quietly growing. The story of Hogan's final days is tied directly to a lifetime of physical punishment. Just 2 months before his passing, in May 2025, Hogan underwent what his team called a little fusion procedure on his neck to deal with chronic pain. Around that same time, he also reportedly had heart surgery in June 2025, while his camp told the public it was a planned procedure and that he was recovering well. The back-to-back surgeries painted a grim picture. Rumors began to swirl online, with some reports even suggesting he was on his deathbed. His wife, Sky Daly, and his representatives had to publicly deny these claims, assuring fans that his heart was strong and he was not in a coma. Friends and family, however, were reportedly aware that his condition was declining. It's been suggested that in his final days, the reality of his fragile health became undeniable, and some were even asked to say their goodbyes. The man who had built a career on being invincible was facing his toughest opponent, not in a sold-out arena under bright lights, but in the quiet aftermath of a lifetime spent pushing his body to its absolute limit. He was a man whose body was finally cashing the check for decades of leg drops, body slams, and the grueling life of a top-tier wrestler. In the wake of such a huge loss, the first question everyone asks is about the end. Fans, desperate for one last piece of their hero, have been searching for his final words. As of now, there have been no confirmed reports about what, if anything, Hulk Hogan said in his last moments. The focus has rightly been on the medical facts of his cardiac arrest and the long, painful road that led to it. It seems his final words weren't spoken on July 24th, but were the ones he shouted into microphones for 40 years. What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? To really understand what happened on that tragic morning in Florida, You have to understand the immense physical price Terry Bollea paid to be Hulk Hogan. His body was a monument to the wrestling industry, and like any monument, it showed the cracks and scars of time. In his later years, Hogan was brutally honest about the toll the business took. In one interview, he shockingly revealed he'd had around 25 surgeries in just a decade. The list was a laundry list of pain: 10 back surgeries, replacements for both knees and both hips, and countless operations on his shoulders, eyes, and abdomen. He once quipped to Men's Health, "Apparently wrestling is all fake, but I sure didn't get that memo." The back issues were especially bad. A career of landing on hard canvases, often after hitting his signature atomic leg drop, had just destroyed his spine. He tried multiple laser spine procedures, which involved burning away nerve endings just to stop the pain, a temporary fix that only made things worse when the nerves grew back. In 2010, he endured a grueling 10-hour surgery to straighten his spine, a procedure so intense it was described as a make-it-or-break-it Hail Mary. At one point, he even had an electric stimulator temporarily implanted in his back, with wires hanging out, all in a desperate attempt to manage the constant pain. He spoke openly about how it all impacted his daily life, at times making it a struggle just to walk. That pain led to another, more private battle. To manage the agony from all the injuries and recoveries, Hogan became reliant on prescription painkillers. He described a vicious cycle where doctors just kept writing prescriptions, leading to a dependency that clouded his mind. "I was hitting the pain pills hard," he admitted, describing the brain fog and feeling of not being himself. Around 2023, he made the tough decision to stop taking them to reclaim his clarity. He also cut back on alcohol and turned to CBD products to manage the pain, a change he credited with helping him feel more like himself again. And on top of all that, the specter of steroid use, which he admitted to during the infamous 1994 federal trial, loomed over his health. He testified he had used steroids since the 80s to help with injuries and to keep the larger-than-life physique his character demanded. The long-term effects of those substances, combined with the sheer trauma of his job, created a perfect storm of health crises that would follow him for the rest of his life. As one source close to him put it, his body was ravaged. It was the body of a man far older than 71. The cardiac arrest that took his life wasn't just a random event. It was the tragic final bill for a lifetime spent being an immortal. Before the yellow boots, the bandana, and the 24-inch pythons, there was Terry Gene Bollea, born in Augusta, Georgia, on August 11, 1953. Growing up in Tampa, Florida, he wasn't the confident, charismatic giant the world would come to know. He was actually a shy kid, bullied for being overweight and having what he called the largest head in elementary school. He was a talented baseball player, even drawing interest from pro scouts, but an injury put an end to that dream. He found his passion in the gym and playing music, performing as a bassist in local rock bands. It was during one of those gigs, at a club where local wrestlers would hang out, that his incredible physique caught the eye of Jack and Gerald Briscoe. They saw huge potential in the nearly 6'7", 300-pound musician and convinced him to give wrestling a shot. His journey started under the legendary and notoriously tough trainer, Hiro Matsuda. Matsuda was known for breaking his students' legs on the first day to test their grit, and he did just that to Bollea. But Terry came back, earning Matsuda's respect and starting a grueling training regimen. He debuted in 1977, working in smaller territories under names like the Super Destroyer. It was when he joined Vince McMahon Sr.'s World Wrestling Federation in 1979 that the magic started to happen. McMahon Sr. was blown away by his size and charisma. After an appearance with Lou Ferrigno, TV's Incredible Hulk, the name Hogan was born, and the Hulk persona was taking shape. His first big break came not as a hero, but as a villain. Managed by classy Freddie Blassie, the evil Hulk Hogan feuded with superstars like Bob Backlund and Andre the Giant. His profile exploded when he was cast as the wrestler Thunderlips in the 1982 film Rocky III, a role that showed off his magnetic personality to a massive mainstream audience. But Vince McMahon Sr. didn't like him taking movie roles, so Hogan left the WWF for a successful run in the AWA, where he became one of their biggest good guys. But Hogan had a vision for wrestling as mainstream entertainment that the old-school promotion just didn't share. This set the stage for his historic return to the WWF in late 1983. By then, Vince McMahon Jr. had bought the company from his father and had a wild vision to turn wrestling from a regional show into a global entertainment powerhouse. He needed a charismatic all-American hero to be the face of it all. And he knew just the guy, Hulk Hogan. The combination of Mick Mahon's marketing genius and Hogan's star power was about to change the world. January 23, 1984. That's the date wrestling historians point to as the day the earth moved. At a sold-out Madison Square Garden, Hulk Hogan, now decked out in red and yellow, challenged the Iron Sheik for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. The Sheik was the ultimate foreign villain, and Hogan was the ultimate American hero. When Hogan escaped the dreaded camel clutch and pinned the Sheik after a thunderous leg drop, the arena just exploded. A new champion was crowned, but something way bigger was born that night. Hulkamania wasn't just a marketing slogan, it was a cultural movement. Hogan became a real-life superhero for millions of kids. His 3 demandments, train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins, became a mantra for a generation. He was an unstoppable force of good, a larger-than-life character with a handlebar mustache and the charisma to hold 80,000 people in the palm of his hand. His interviews, always starting with, "Well, let me tell you something, brother," were electric. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was an icon. Vince McMahon cashed in on this perfectly. He partnered with MTV to create the Rock and Wrestling connection, bringing in pop stars like Cyndi Lauper and making wrestling cool for a whole new audience. At the center of it all was Hogan. This led to the first ever WrestleMania in 1985, a huge gamble that mixed wrestling with celebrity sparkle. Hogan teamed up with Mr. T in the main event, and its success launched the WWF into the stratosphere. Hogan would go on to headline 8 of the first 9 WrestleManias, proving his incredible drawing power. His rivalries from this era are the stuff of legend. He battled Rowdy Roddy Piper, King Kong Bundy, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, but his most iconic feud was with the colossal Andre the Giant. In Ijo Bati, Andre turned on Hogan, setting up the main event of WrestleMania 3, the image of Hulk Hogan lifting the 500-pound giant for a body slam is maybe the single most iconic moment in wrestling history, a feat that drew a reported 93,000 fans. A year later, their rematch on the main event on NBC drew an unbelievable 33 million viewers, a record for a wrestling match on American TV that still stands today. His championship reign lasted an incredible 1,474 days. He was the first wrestler to win the Royal Rumble back-to-back in 1990 and 1991. His popularity went far beyond the ring. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, starred in his own cartoon, and had action figures that flew off the shelves. For an entire decade, Hulk Hogan wasn't just the face of wrestling, he was wrestling. He took a gritty, regional business and turned it into a billion-dollar, family-friendly, global entertainment phenomenon. By the early 90s, the Redondilo superhero act was starting to feel a little stale. The culture was changing. After a final run, Hogan left the WWF in 1993 to focus on acting. With roles in movies like Suburban Commando and the TV show Thunder in Paradise, it looked like his time at the top was over. Then, in 1994, he did the unthinkable. He signed with WWF's biggest rival, Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling WCW. At first, he brought the same all-American hero persona to WCW and had another run as champion, but the magic wasn't quite the same. The cheers were still there, but a new, more cynical part of the audience started to boo the predictable hero. The wrestling world was on the verge of another revolution, and this time, Hogan would be leading it from the dark side. It all started in 1996 when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash showed up in WCW, fresh from the WWF. They came off as hostile invaders from the rival company, promising a hostile takeover with a mysterious third partner. The storyline was electric, blurring the lines between reality and fiction. The only question on every fan's mind was, who was the third man? The answer came on July 7, 1996, at Bash at the Beach, in what is still considered the most shocking heel turn in wrestling history. Hulk Hogan, the man who told kids to eat their vitamins for a decade, walked to the ring and attacked his friend, Randy Savage. The crowd was stunned. As fans pelted the ring with trash, Hogan, Hall, and Nash stood together. Grabbing a mic, Hogan ripped into the fans for turning on him and announced the birth of a new world order of wrestling. "Brother," He was no longer Hulk Hogan. He was Hollywood Hogan. This was a seismic shift. Hogan ditched the red and yellow for black and white and grew a black beard to complete the look. The New World Order, or NWO, became the coolest, most dominant group in wrestling. Their anti-establishment attitude was perfect for the times, and their black and white t-shirts became the best-selling merch in wrestling history. Fueled by the NWO, WCW's show, Monday Nitro, started crushing the WWF's Monday Night Raw in the ratings for 83 straight weeks. The Monday Night War was on, and Hogan's reinvention was the reason WCW was winning. As the leader of the NWO, Hollywood, Hogan was everything that classic Hulk Hogan was not: arrogant, cowardly, and willing to cheat to keep his title. The move not only revitalized Hogan's career, but forced the entire industry to get edgier. The WWF had to fight back, kicking off its Attitude Era with anti-heroes like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, a direct response to the rebellious vibe of the NWO. Hogan's ability to completely reinvent himself proved he wasn't just wrestling's greatest hero, but also its most effective villain. For all the incredible highs of his career, Terry Bollea's life outside the ring was often a mess of public controversy and personal struggle. His legacy, while monumental, is undeniably complicated and, for many, deeply tarnished by his own actions. The squeaky clean image of the all-American hero often clashed with the flawed man behind the character. One of the first major cracks appeared during the 1994 WWF steroid trial. His admission of using steroids for years, even if just for recovery, shattered the illusion for many fans who had bought into his "eat your vitamins" mantra. Later, his personal life became tabloid gold in the mid-2000s, with the reality show Hogan Knows Best. The picture-perfect family it showed eventually fell apart, with a very public and nasty divorce from his first wife, Linda, in 2007. But the two most damaging events of his life came later. In 2012, a private sex tape was leaked online by the website Gawker, leading to a long and bitter invasion of privacy lawsuit, while Hogan ultimately won a massive judgment that bankrupted Gawker. The details that came out were devastating to his reputation. Then, in 2015, transcripts from another tape were released, revealing Hogan using racist slurs, including the N-word, while talking about his daughter Brooke's dating life. The backlash was immediate and severe. WWE fired him, scrubbed his name from their website, and removed him from the Hall of Fame. The man who had been a hero to people of all backgrounds was now disgraced. Hogan issued multiple apologies, calling it the biggest mistake of his life. After a 3-year exile, WWE reinstated him into the Hall of Fame in 2018. But for many, the damage was permanent. His legacy was further complicated by his outspoken support of Donald Trump, even delivering a speech at the 2024 Republican National Convention. In the wrestling world, he was also a divisive figure. Peers like Bret Hart and The Undertaker criticized him for using his backstage power to protect his spot at the top, sometimes refusing to lose matches that would have helped elevate other talent. This is the duality of Hulk Hogan, a figure of immense inspiration and undeniable influence, but also a man whose personal failings created a legacy that is as controversial as it is celebrated. The news of Hulk Hogan's passing sent a tidal wave of grief and reflection across the sports and entertainment worlds. Tributes poured in from the very people who stood across the ring from him, worked beside him, and were inspired by him. Vince McMahon called him a trailblazer who was the first to go from wrestling star to global phenomenon. His old rival, Eric Bischoff, spoke of the massive risk he took with the NWO, a risk that changed the business forever. Stars from other generations also weighed in. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who had an iconic icon versus icon match with Hogan at WrestleMania X8, has always credited Hogan with paving the way for stars like him. That match was a perfect example of Hogan's power. He was supposed to be the villain, but the crowd's insane cheers for their childhood hero forced them to change the story on the fly, proving that Hulkamania never really dies. Ric Flair, another legend whose career ran parallel to Hogan's, expressed his deep sorrow. Beyond wrestling, the outpouring continued. Sylvester Stallone, who cast him in Rocky III, had always spoken of his incredible presence. Political figures, including former President Donald Trump, called him a great friend. But maybe the most powerful reactions came from the fans. Millions took to social media to share memories of watching wrestling with their dads, of ripping their own t-shirts, of cupping their ear to the crowd. They mourned the loss of a childhood hero, acknowledging his flaws but choosing to remember the inspiration he gave them. It was a global testament to the fact that, for better or worse, very few people in modern history have had the cultural impact of Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is survived by his wife, Sky Daly, whom he married in 2023, and his 2 children, Brooke and Nick Hogan. His passing leaves a massive void in the heart of his family and in the world of entertainment. The story of Terry Bollea is a complex American epic. It's the story of a shy kid who became a global icon, a hero who became a villain, and a man who was both immortalized and deeply flawed. He was a force of nature who, through